super cat promoter. Lion, no fire glow, super karaoke. This is poetic dopamine, better than Coca-Cola. I'm dopamine, open stream. I be choking cobra, snake charmer, brain macabre, ancient great karma. See the Rams Day in this diaphragm diorama. Diurnal herbalist, moving diagram. Watching my vision is panoramic with it. It's botanic. Flower child, showered in clouds, my soul expanded. Life is a design, why didn't you know the planet? Polish rocks knowledge, my wisdom will coat the planet. I get it, I'm so demanding, supply, gotta cut the wire, run traditional umbilical cord inside the cipher. As a baby, grab the mic instead of a pacifier. Melody appetizer, beware buyer, this is some rare fire. Sit in a chair higher, giving a spare tire. You're on your last lap like a stripper that just retired. Now I mean my queen seem to be sweeter than the papaya. I move far away from dinners to wear blinders. Gold color contact, solar power, God rap. No one can doubt that I'm that lyrical exerciser, spiritual advisor, and I'm the kind of man that miracles admire. Minerals are minor, I majored in all required to complete the grand arcanum. Leaping the phantom, quantum, Phoenician, the fire blossom. Come reach for this high adopted Mayan shaman, mind boggling. Reach to the time I'm all the skin, moccasins, forgotten sins, common men, nature, nigga, time sovereigns. Making bullet points, lacking freedom is a problem. Carry extra magazines like they speaking in your column. I came from the center, never started from the bottom. Got your children in school, being smart is an option. Rhyme book encyclopedias is written in the margins. Listening to Marvin, sexual healing. My medicine is revealing that the stars in the sky got ancestors in the ceiling. Moods of Allah in my hand gestures. Zodiac gang signs, it's the grand netter. Time slipping through our fingers, fit a sand texture. Chandelier in the ceiling full of ancestors. Moods of Allah in my hand gestures. Zodiac gang signs, it's the grand netter. Chandelier in the sky full of ancestors. Show you clear, maybe you can understand better. Yes. Zodiac lay shower me. Spirits from above, those who passed away flower me. Allah's intelligence, I may out when they encountered me. Effortlessly writing new verse before you count to three. With a sound to see, the sight to hear, the taste of beauty. My ancestors in the sky told me make a movie. It's the mega Sufi, serving like a maker Sufi. The grand makers open bars, I can make the zoo free. I'm giving season passes to the secret passage. Not a tunnel, but a chapter, unreleased status. Slow gases, mine ain't fast enough to beat molasses. Midget at a strip club, arms ain't long enough to reach the masses. See the Phoenix resurrected if you read the ashes. Cross me, you'll be seeing axes. Reenactors needed atlas like IG tags. Meet me at the Atlas. Bullet train, bloodshot eyes from drinking out your reading glasses. Zodiac's name, crack your brain. Rappers slain, master pain. I make hits, they making Cassius claims. Older than Apostle Luke age. Smoke pop with Luke Cage. The Bushmaster, Mussolini, Galactica. Houdini couldn't see me with a crystal ball. Eagle, regal, seeking all lies to plot a dream for y'all. I push past the vision y'all look after. Clear while I'm the finisher here like wood lacquer. Shooting star comedy type like good laughter. Heavy still like a waiter when I walk on with toast. God's told me you on the power here. I'm talking with ghosts like sun rays in the seance. I slice like a radiant. Zodiac real estate, kingdom of the avians. He's up above us, they thinking that I'm Canadian. KZ the chosen A-bomb. I wrote the ape song. Magician that can open they palm. Exploded napalm. King Kong, Kami high. Exploded ape palm with granite countertop. Holding wishes in my palm with granite. Megalodon, Megatron, I'm stretching my mind tight. Tap the splitter subtly, I'm Gregory hindsight. Moods of Allah in my hand gestures. Zodiac gang signs, it's the grand netter. Time slipping through our fingers, fit a sand texture. Chandelier in the ceiling full of ancestors. Moods of Allah in my hand gestures. Zodiac gang signs, it's the grand netter. Chandelier in the sky full of ancestors. Show you clear, maybe you can understand better.
What energy had the Creator created in me that would make me be capable of doing what other men who have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 feet, 2 legs, that I couldn't do. And I realized that the God in me was as great as anybody else's God in them. Especially, it says, if it then tends to lean towards what is right and true. And so I began to develop the insight to know that it's not an individual. See, this communication system that you've established here, for me, is the beginning of a worldwide network of independent entrepreneurs to communicate truth to the people. This radio station, the intellectual radio, do you know how powerful that is? Intellect in Hebrew is maskil, and maskil means he that have the ability to create. You are a creator, Earl, and you are bringing people around you to sustain the creation that you built. So I want you to know that you're one of those powerful men that I believe with support, it ain't nothing that you can't do, and I want to sign up as part of your team to support you.
All right, peace and black power family. Welcome to another episode of New Knowledge Radio. Place for Knowledge is Born. This is your host, Knowledge Born Online. We have a prolific mastermind here to help chart us along a course of destiny, of reformation, and proper correction that is necessary. We have been wayward in our approach in regards to self-mastery, in regards to the areas of wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, all of the aspects of wellness. And we are in need, a dire need of a checkup from the neck up. So it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present to others a mastermind's mastermind, one who walks it like he talks it and lives it as a shining example of what is necessary to reinvigorate the spark of liberation for our people, through our families, through our interpersonal communications and our interpersonal relationships. An ambassador, my brother and my teacher here from the kingdom of Yah, Crown Prince Melek Yosef bin Asasiel is in the building. Shalom, shalom, my brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam rahmatullah.
Peace and blessings to all those who are listening. First and foremost, Kodum Kol, Kolakavol, Yahuwah, Yakadosh Israel. I just want to, first, brother, thank you for sharing those brief words of our father, Prince Asasiel, the one who has made ascension in the last year, but is definitely still teaching, still inspiring, still reaching the masses and elevating their consciousness. And as he made mention to the power of independent thought, independent, not of God, but independent of this current system that is rotating on the axis of a lie. He spoke to the platform in which he was participating in, intellectual radio, and he talked about the necessity for those who actually are galvanizing around truth and disseminating it in a authentic way to actually impact our people in an advantageous way. And so, as I must say, as my father said for Brother Eric, I must say for you, Do the Knowledge Radio is not just in that vein, but it's a very peculiar radio in the sense of what people think you should be doing, but it's actually righteously ordained by what God has shown you in this dispensation of time, brother. So I too am a participant and a servant and a helper to you and this illustrious platform, because it is this platform that will change the discourse of the conversation, that will elevate the minds and the consciousness of our people so that we will be truly a free and independent people. So, brother, Do the Knowledge Radio is a repository of not just minds of men and women who seek to truly shift the culture, but is a repository of information, history, and empowerment that will fractionalize this current system, break it into pieces, and allow a more righteous orientated world of communication to exist in this dispensation of time. So what you are doing relative to our evolution and involvement is the most efficacious way to do it, is to tell truth as it is, irrespectful to how people feel it should be said. So what you're doing is most germane in this dispensation of time, brother, and I'm so humbled, as always, so pleased and privileged to be a guest on your platform, sir.
You see that, y'all? Like father, like son. Okay. They both took a minute and a half, and they said more in a minute and a half than I said in my lifetime. You understand what I'm saying? They know. They know how to speak to you. Warn you of your wicked ways. Get you back right on track. So
Yes, sir.
we're here around a particular subject that I want to go very extensively into. This is a part of that. And we'll continue this more in depth, in person, sitting down mouth to ear. I think this is a good way to kind of give an overview and to get into some of these things, but a more comprehensive breakdown would be interpersonally. So for the rest of y'all gonna have to wait until the optics come out. You know what I'm saying? But
Yes,
we
sir.
here, and it was centered around something that I saw, and when I saw it, I looked at it from a very analytical space, not from a egotistical or zealotry and membership type of space. I saw it from the space of the presenter. And I said, I need to get a hold of Crown Prince to examine this, because you are one of the versatile minds in regards to the things that are necessary cross culturally. You deal with the best part. You keep the best part preserved for yourself. And because of how you are acculturated and how you come into being, you have a legacy that is your mother's and a legacy that is your father's and a legacy that is your own. So when I saw this, I said the only person I could talk to about this representation and misrepresentation is you, Crown Prince. So you had opening remarks in regards to your initial thoughts on, viewing this documentary. We could open with that.
Absolutely. I want to say first that I am so grateful for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who you see his picture is hovering over my head, because that man who was chosen to have the hardest mission that any man could have, and that is the resurrection of a dead people. Not only was he stationed with that responsibility, but he had to do so in a time where the knowledge of God, the knowledge of devil, and the knowledge of self was seemingly absent from our people, especially in the wilderness of North America. 17 million or so at the time in which he came into the knowledge of self that he was stationed with, of our people, another 2 million of the natives, including 19 million altogether, that he was responsible for disseminating this information to first. And he could have chosen, after Master Farad Muhammad had imparted in him, impregnated in him a supreme wisdom and knowledge, for the messenger who met with God, who was taught by God, who walked with God, who believed by all that he had experienced in his account to us, his students and followers and believers, that not only was he in the presence of God, but the work that he was stationed with was of God for a people that would fulfill prophecy. I say that because when you have a man of that magnitude who did not deviate nor detour from what he was taught by his leader and teacher, who he taught was God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, But he also did so with keeping Master Fard Muhammad out front, never placing himself above that who was the originator of this supreme wisdom and knowledge. But something about, brother, no matter how appreciative, no matter how much we acknowledge or benefit from said knowledge and said person who is the deliverer of that knowledge, we always think we can do it better. We always think that it was something that wasn't special about that person that qualifies us because we feel inclined based on our own self-aggrandizement and sometimes self-delusions that we're better than, and we seek that we can do it better, or we have a greater revelation, and we take the root of that knowledge and try to manipulate it to our own benefit. And I believe, brother, and history will bear me witness and has bore me witness, because history is replete of examples. When we break continuity of those who preceded us, we break the very fiber of the greatness in which we were sought to inherit from the knowledge and the power and the actions and the institutions that we were given by said men and man. When I seen the documentary, brother, I seen two things. I seen an attempt to try to give by the curator of this documentary and what they believe to be an appropriate and proper account, though there was some inconsistencies, though there was some historical inaccuracies. I believe sincerely, and you can correct me, that the person at least sought to try to give some understanding as honest and unbiased as possible. But when you don't do a thorough enough investigation, irrespective to what your intentions are, it won't come out as such. I also seen the reality of men, and I liken it back unto the children of Israel. And we and you were speaking of it a couple of days ago when we talked about Moses and how he was to deliver the children out of bondage, the children of Israel, in which we would affectionately know them as, but though it wasn't Israel at that time, at least geographically, but the children of Israel, the children of the seed of Israel. And every step of the way, from leaving the bondage of Egypt into the wilderness of the desert, attempting to enter into the promised land, they sought to overthrow Moses. They sought to delegitimize Moses. They sought to fight and possibly even kill Moses, given the chance. The same very man who represented the authority of God, the conduit of their liberation, because of the mind and the conditioning of their former slave master, they were unwilling to mentally, spiritually, intellectually, and then ultimately physically, irrespective to their change of geographical location, to rid themselves of the necessary experiences that would qualify them to be an actual free people. That's the same thing that we've experienced in the nation of Islam and in our community to a certain extent, not at that extent, but any Black organization who had and created a momentum. You got that errant belief that we're not going to continue in the light or the vein of divine, but we're going to continue leaning on our own understanding and making it our own personal objective and agenda, because we've been such a downtrodden people. We've been such a subjugated people. We've been such a people without identity, without power, without presence. The moment that we can assume power, that takes precedence over the actual mission. And brother, without being long-winded, because there's so much to unpack, and I dare not try to do it all in this first opening, I realized the necessity of not just studying history, not just studying the events and the people, but doing so in a way that you do not become victim of the same history that we say and that we're trying to remove ourselves from. I want the audience to hear me. We can be so righteous, so self-pretentious, so sanctimonious in our pursuit of freedom that we victimize and rob ourselves of the very freedom by falling victim to the very thing in which we say we're moving ourselves away from. I saw a people who desired freedom, but was truly, though they gave a lot, though they sacrificed a lot, their lives, their families, their resources, their well-being, they were unwilling to give the ultimate sacrifice, and that's submission and obedience to Almighty God. You can't say the messenger is who he is and then not think he is of God. And if you think he's of God, you're going to challenge God and say that his way wasn't correct or right and it could be done different, it could be done better. That's asinine. That's one thing, brother. That's how you know the people of the book is us. Because we give our prophets hell. We give our teachers and our leaders and our messiahs and our parents hell. And as soon as we get in a position of perceived power, we give our people hell. So I think that it was a beautiful lesson in it in regards of the beauty of what the Nation of Islam produced. But I also see that if you play with the word of God, if you play with the word of God, that the punishment is ultimately your death and your demise. And I think that's been evident when we take a very circumspect look at history and what is transpiring, using this as a beautiful case study. I will say this. You spoke about the opening and the word, right? The word is so beautiful in the book of John. It says, in the beginning, it was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And then we look at the story of Jonah. Jonah was subjected to the belly of the beast because he refused to be obedient by articulating the word to Nineveh. We're not in a position, brother, to hold truth in our hearts, in our guts, and in our mouths and not pronounce it. If we don't speak truth to power and align it with proper orientation, habit, and behavior, our punishment is going to be severely worse than any people that have ever existed on this planet. So what I am about to say, what you're about to say, what we're about to say is not anything that we're saying unjust or lightly or some idle type of speech. It is the very salvation of our people, and I take that ownership and that responsibility serious. That these words that I profess, vet them, check them, and make sure they are appropriately aligned with my actions, but also understand that I'm more scared of the God that governs me than you. So I don't give a damn what you think or feel about what we're about to say, because my punishment for not telling the truth and living the truth is going to be more severe by my God than you and your punk little guns or weapons or gangs that you think you can try to scare us with. You know, my father didn't make no punk, and I damn sure ain't going to be no punk in his absence. And so, but I say that with all humility, brother. And I'm just saying that this is a very serious thing to us. And so as we divulge in this conversation and compartmentalize it to build it back up and deconstruct it, I'm doing so in honesty, I'm doing so in truth, and I'm doing so with the understanding that this ain't no plaything. And our lives are on the line if we don't do it in a proper manner. I digress, brother.
That's it, y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. That's it. Get the rest. When it's available, yeah. I mean, it was so much.
Yeah, it was.
The beauty, you're good. I love it. And that's why you're here. You see what I'm saying? The beauty of it as you were speaking, 2 points were glaring. The reference to the people of the book and giving the prophets hell as 1 point. And then the other semblance of the point was they wanted to go back home, but they couldn't swim 9,000 miles. They wanted to go back home. So they realized that they were not in their place of origin, that they were taken from their place of origin based off of trickery. They wanted to go back home. But the amount of effort that it took to return back home, they were unable or unwilling to return back home. Their 9,000 miles could have began with 1 step. But being unable or unwilling to do what was necessary to make that trek or that journey back to home showed us how much we have a regard and respect for home. We don't. We don't have a reverence for home. We don't have a reverence for the womb space. That was our home after our celestial home. We don't have a reverence for our celestial home. We cut off relations with the wombs that gave us birth. So, as the other point, likened to the people of the book, we aren't the people of the book, yet we imitate and mimic their ways perfectly. Those people of the book gave their prophets hell because their prophets were there hellified. So a part of their reformation was to seek to try to reform a thing that you cannot reform. So if you wanted to know what that process was like, in the holy writings, our ancestors made it plain. We sought to save these things. Don't save them. We sought to love these things. Don't love them. We sought to go amongst these things and do trade. Don't do that. Stay away from them. Don't go near them. Don't enter into them. Don't marry into them. Don't reproduce with them. Stay away from them. Do for you. Do for self. So that space of being easily led in the wrong direction and hard to be led in the right was a penalty based off of that inclination towards what is deemed as goodwill to men, but detrimental to self. So no longer do we reverence the womb space, but we reverence its womb space. No longer do we reverence and pay homage to our mind. We give reverence to its mind. We don't deal with our spirit and our soul. We deal with its lack thereof. So in the determinants in regards to the behavior, it is easier to be in hell than to swim 9,000 miles and be in heaven. Because peace is the absence of confusion. But if you learn to love confusion, you can find peace there in the land of Nod. Because you sleep. You're in a state of sleep. This is why you're in the land of Nod where my face won't be seen, because you are asleep. So when they gave us the heroin and we were injecting heroin in our veins, You had to nod.
Hmm.
Nothing in life became more important than having our people nodding off. Nothing. No family life. Nothing of worth, value, substance. Nothing could compete with that nod, that feeling, that escape from the horrors and realities of life associated with the skin that you're in. So they wanted to go back home. They knew it was like, this is not the place we're supposed to be at. And from a long line of descent, of fighting, a long, tumultuous battle of fighting to get back home, they realized that this 9,000 miles was too arduous of a journey to return back home. And if one generation would have returned back home, everything would have been fine. But that one generation didn't want to swim 9,000 miles. And you know from the nation that you're in that one generation saw fit to swim 9,000 miles and return home. So in this home, you become self-governing. In this home, you return back to self-proclamation and self-determination. You can name yourself. You can claim yourself. These other things that look so glaring, you only know about them through virtual interaction or mouth-to-ear recollection. You don't even know about the poor part. You don't even experience the snake or the grafted type. You are in a position to self-determine and to self-govern. Now, the creature comforts and all of these other aspects that you have become accustomed to in hell might have been attractive. So, with the Moses situation taking them out of the sting of the lash of Pharaoh and having them go into another space, they're like, yo, fam, we had it better off over there. And this is the space in regards to what's necessary in order to build, because we're going to get to that build space. We're going to get into that build space. Looking at it, the level of labor that's associated with it was the same labor that was used in the interorientation in order to get our labor. So when it says a trader made an interorientation saying that they would receive more gold for their labor, more than they were earning in their own country, the operative word was more. So more seeded into their minds and hearts a space of dissatisfaction. So that's all it took to be brought on this 9,000-mile ride. This cannot be the catalyst for you to stay in the condition that you find yourself in, more gold, any longer. The precious gold, the precious metal, the precious gems and jewels of the minds and the hearts of the people and the future of our people have to become more important than the creature comforts of hell. So I just wanted to posit that very quickly in that regard. And I want to allow you to continue in your dialogue of this analysis, because we're looking at an integral part of your mission and our collective mission of learning the lessons from our glorious past and our sojourn to the future with the gift of the present to be able to move in the spirit of righteousness and integrity. So The other aspects of your examination lend to those ideals. So I want to yield to give you time to explore that and expound on those points.
It says that in the scripture that the children of Israel cried out that Moses had brought us out of the land of our fathers to die. It's a word in the English language. It's an adjective. It's phantasmagoric. Phantasmagoric is something that is fantastically deceptive. Why am I saying this? Listen to the words of the children of Israel, a people who were in captivity, where Pharaoh knew not of Joseph, that they have been reduced to the rubble of the earth, at the very lowest of society. Listen now. Moses has brought us out of the land of our fathers to die. They had deceived themselves to revert the image of what the Holy Land was, where they were going. And because of the arduous journey and task of building and creating and removing yourselves from the atrocious reality of your slave master, but that atrocity is lessened because you become comfortable and it becomes convenient because it becomes common. So what did the mind of a slave do? It took the promised land where they were going and made it where they were at. Phantasmagoric, fantastically deceptive. For my Hebrew brothers, you may be taken aback, but we're going to just dig into supreme wisdom lessons real quick. But I say this, for those who love truth, you should love knowledge and fight for knowledge as you would your next breath if you were about to drown and you were submerged under water and you finally were pulled out, gasping for air. That's how knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge should be in our lives each and every moment. It says, why did Moses have such a hard time civilizing devil? Says, because he was half man, half prophet, half original man, half prophet, and half savage himself. Why do we, brother knowledge born Allah, have such a hard time civilizing devil? And we don't have to go to the grafted type. I'm talking about the devil that resides in us, that inner devil. Why do we have such a hard time civilizing that self, that lower self of us? It's because we're half savage ourselves. What do? We accept it and we relish. We find enjoyment in taking on the mentality, the behavioral practices of our enemy. I preface with that, brother, based on your questions. I like to make sure when I furnish the house, brother, that I build a sound infrastructure and foundation so it can look nice, but if it don't have that solid, solidified foundation, all those nice adornments are going to be immaterial once the house comes crumbling down. So I like to set the stage. And this is what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad emphasized when he talked about knowledge of self. and reorienting your thinking to be a God and to see yourself as the direct descendants of God. 82nd Psalms, ye know not that ye are gods and children of the Most High God. But what happens when you lack that knowledge? It says, you will die like men and fall like the rulers of the princes of this world. Good character, integrity, reverence, and respect. You made mention of the reverence of the home, the original home in which we come from, which is the womb, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally, in which produced us. But when you lose reverence for those wombs, both physical and spiritual, if you are unable to orient yourself with what actually home is, what the promised land is, not just in the material, but in the immaterial or the spiritual, you will never reach it. The trek of 40 years in the desert represented a people who were not were unable to reach a physical location. They were unable and unwilling to reach a greater train of thought, unable to elevate their consciousness to actually be progenitors of a world that would inhabit and encapsulate a people of God. When I go back to that documentary, when I go back to our sojourn, when I look at the state of our people, we've been equipped, brother, with the best teachers a people could have. I love the prophets of this book, but I will stack up all of our prophets in this, and I mean in the colloquial sense, with those prophets of old. You got two right behind me. I put those two up against anybody. It's talking about knowledge and power and understanding and desire and revelation and experience. What am I saying? I'm saying that because we're unable and unwilling to truly elevate the level of consciousness, and we're going to get to the best of our ability how to do so, because some of us have snuck through the cracks. But when we as a people collectively are unwilling to elevate our thought and to sacrifice the quote unquote privileges of this world to truly have a world that is in unison and in sync with our very DNA and our nature, we're never going to reach the necessary promised land that we're so desirous of and that we so much need. We don't even, where's the integrity? Where are the men who are standing up to be men and to act as men and to have reverence for men and to be able to listen and learn by those men who have exceeded them in knowledge and experience and revelation? The crux of the matter is that we had fallen to such a state where we didn't want to be led no more. And we felt that another black man in particular had no authority over us. And because of that, it was a producer of our decadent behavior that not just took us back to where we were, but took us further back than we could ever even imagine. All of those men who stood up or were byproducts of the Nation of Islam, most of all, I don't want to misspeak because I maybe can't at the moment recall each and every one. But if we just do a quick memory jog and an inventory of those organizations who directly came as a result of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they met an undeserving, but a fate that was destined based on their action and behavior. And as a son of revolutionary men, I must say, even it's hard for me to say, but I said before, I'd rather die than not speak truth to power. I'd rather die. So when we look at whether the intent was proper, I think some of the most brilliant men come out of the 5%ers. But it was a reason why the nation had a rule: you can come as you are, but you can't stay how you are. It was a reason why we didn't permit being drunkards and drug addicts and practicing it and immorality. It was a reason we had to clean ourselves up. We had to clean. I mean, if we're going to trust the process, we have to be able to endure the process. We're the only people that want to accomplish some great magical feat without submitting to process. If it took us 400 years to get in this condition, how the hell we think it's going to take us 4 years to get out of it? Even if time is sped up, those numbers don't match. So I want to get back way to you, brother, and further go down this dialogue. But again, see, these conversations are so imperative, brother Knowledge, because we look back at history. We've been critical, we've been analytical, we've cited the points, and we've shared the stories, and we uplifted everybody. But then at the end of the day, it was like, okay, what was the end product, or what was the condition in which it had produced that has us in this current condition right now? And if we don't analyze that in a very honest and integral way, where we are seeking to enact solutions, not only are we intellectually masturbating, we're essentially cutting off the very instrument which produces life. We're castrating ourselves. We've become impotent in every possible way. And so we won't even enjoy the act of masturbation because nothing will ever come out. We'll just have rug burns down low. And that's what we are as men, and that's what we are as a people. That has run its course. That has run its course. That we're too intellectual, we're too intelligent, we have access to too much knowledge, we've been trained well, we know everything that we believe to be under the sun, and yet and still we're at the bottom of every society. That's not hyperbole. While the world is fighting for supremacy and dominance, we're just aimlessly wandering around, don't even know if we man or woman. We still worrying about what's the next black man Kim Kardashian gonna lay with. And those who transition into what they feel a higher level of consciousness, we're reduced to just, smoking marijuana and wearing crystals and getting off into some far esoteric reality that we lose track of the current physical material world that we're in, that don't have true power to change our circumstance. We're either too low or too high. Too high that the material world is immaterial. We got to make it make sense now. So I just, without being long-winded, just wanted to bring that to discussion, because that's what I seen, not in the sense that those brothers are responsible for that in that regard, but that's what I seen has caused this current condition, because those environments have produced a people and a generation who are completely disconnected and discerned with actually being a people of consequence, being a people of God, and wanting to truly do for self in an organized, separate way. That's the reality. That if you go to our youngsters, not only what's a nation? What? That it's not even a conversation. So I get what to you, brother.
I love it. I love it. If you say long-winded on, look, if you say long-winded over here one more time, though, I'm gonna take issue with that.
You bring out my radical side, brother.
Yeah, I love it. I love every bit of it.
But the times are serious, brother.
Yes.
Is that we're a peaceful people, right? Vegan, drain, but we coming to the point where Hell, we might have to take out some of our own people because of their refusal to get on board and to at least get out the way. The beautiful thing about the Haitian Revolution or Haiti in 1804 is they had the foresight to say, some of these niggas we're going to have to kill first before we go kill the European. Because we know with their back against the wall, based on their current conditioning, what choice they're going to make. And I'm not advocating violence, nor am I promoting it at all. But I'm saying, what are we really willing to do for freedom? What are we willing to do to save our babies? I mean, while we're speaking, young women are getting raped, getting kidnapped, men are being molested, being used as every type of thing, sex trafficking, organ trafficking, all of these things are going on right now. And we're still talking about, well, if your cords are blue ain't this long, and your fringes ain't that long, or if you don't say Allah this way, or say Shalaki, or say Shalom, but we some damn fools, brother. We some damn fools. What are we gonna do with that type of mind? So yeah, I get pumped up, brother. I get a little hype, man. We in the streets for real, man. I'm really in Chicago. I'm really in the hoods of Accra. I'm really in the hoods of Joburg. You see what I'm saying? Those hoods too. In Atlanta, Bankhead. Different parts of New York and Harlem. We touching the people, and I'm seeing our people like, God damn, what's going on? But we know what's going on. It's not enough of us doing what we're supposed to do, and it's too many of those that are blocking the people's view of us who are actually doing the work and in the streets by putting on a spectacle to get likes on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and to get seen and hopefully get hired for a movie role by putting on a good enough performance and bringing people into the seats. That time is up, man. I'm shutting up this time for real, brother.
Easily led in the wrong direction, but hard to be led in the right. Easily led in the wrong direction. Very easily. You don't even take nothing but a whisper to be led in the wrong direction. But hard to be led in the right, because that momentum is built up and associated with that movement towards the wrong direction. So that momentum is coming. And don't let it be on a downslope. And you're seeking to avert a crisis from happening because of the wrong direction to travel, and you're hurting yourself at the expense of yourself, seeking to reverse the momentum back into the right direction, equated to moving uphill. Moving uphill, an uphill battle. Everything in that environment is working against you. Are you prepared to outlast this moving in the wrong direction and you providing resistance on the other side, persistently and consistently, for a space where you're on equal footing to be able to revert those who are willing back in the right direction towards home. The prodigal sons and the prodigal daughters that come from good homes. They come from good homes. They come from wealth. They come from order. They come from justice. And when they wanted a piece of their inheritance, a piece of it, what did they do with it? They squandered it. Because they did not have to labor for it. There was no investment associated with it. Just give me a little bit of what I'm due now. I couldn't delay gratification. I couldn't wait until it was my time. I just wanted a little bit right now. This is what Musa did. This is why Musa had such a hard time civilizing devil. He wanted a little bit of his inheritance. The sons of God saw the daughters of men and they were fair. So they looked fair to him. That's devil. Devil makes these things look fair seeming. These instant gratifications, these instantaneous moments, they seem fair seeming. They seem harmless. They seem like the right thing to do. And it's leading you further and further away from your home. Further and further away from your home. So the fervency and zeal that you have in an inclination to return home is not matched by your ability or willingness to do what's necessary. Even if you got to swim 9,000 miles. It ain't even a thought in your mind that you prepared to do that. That you would fight to do so. They tell us, Crown Prince, and I don't even know how to swim, man. How the hell I'm going to swim 9,000 miles and I can't swim a mile? I can't swim 3 feet. I'm going to drown. As if how you're in existence, in the state that you see yourself in, that you are actualizing every single day, is better than you swimming towards your liberation and drowning in the process. This acculturation with long suffering for a reward in the afterlife is a whispering in the wind that is creeping through the hearts and to the minds of the overwhelming populace among us. Indiscriminate to the good homes we come from, the good ancestry we come from, the good stock that we come from, squandering parts of our inheritance, and then looking for more gold. In that space, the step before redemption is actualization. So on the poor part of the planet Earth, in the hells of North America, we found ourselves, Crown Prince, envious over what the pig was eating. And we know what the pig eats. So envious of what the pig was eating. And the difference between us then and us now is they were good. They weren't good with what the pig was eating. They remembered that they could go home. We don't remember that we can go home. So instead of us going home, what we do, Crown Prince, we chopped off the head of the pig and began to eat the pig. We took the appetite for filth and our inclination towards depravity and destruction and begin to season it. So it's not alarming to our system. We put the herbs and the spices on the pig and begin to eat the pig. And we begin to seek after the pig in that way. The dirt, the degeneracy, the depravity, the decimation, the devastation, the destruction continually. So much so, the reason for Genesis 6 came from God looking at a thing that God created, and in its heart space, in its mind space, in its thought space, it was nothing but evil continued. How evil, unwell, misguided, or sick do you have to be to eat your own self? To kill your own self? So us looking in that space, I surmise from the psycho-spiritual space what we call ourselves, how we label ourselves, how we identify ourselves is critical in this root cause analysis. In this root cause analysis. So if we didn't do the work internally, the exterior just looks better. The exterior just looks better. The internal work was not done. So I could transform my speech. I could submit to the dietary laws even, but I had not learned, nor was I required to transform myself from the inside. That required work. The fasting and the prayer requires work. The ability to abstain required work. So these modalities associated with getting a people who are gluttonous to abstain from gluttony was a trial. At a time where the world was on fire. So gluttonous in their speech, gluttonous in their behavior, gluttonous in their interdependency upon our enemy. Gluttonous as a people, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about, are a people of sport and play.
Mm-hmm.
Sport and play. And in 2023, many of us still have that inclination of gluttony, most particularly centered around sport and play.
The book of Isaiah, 49th chapter, says this, brother. And I will feed them what which oppresses thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken off of their own blood as if it was sweet wine. So to your point, I just wanted to interject that's what we have become. At this point, we have found the light and satisfaction. We have been satiated and our thirst have been quenched off our own impression, off our own oppression and our own death, our own blood. So you said that scripture popped in my mind, but I you go back, brother, but what you said just resonated so hard because that's the condition of our people.
I love it. You know, one book and a documentary that I'm working on simultaneously is surrounding the research question of a topic, I've shared with you on numerous occasions. With everything that we know, all of the studies that we've gone on, we done went from knowledge to Pluto in every space in between. Our brother Akil wrote From Niggas to God, book 1 and 2. He wrote that book, those books, with us taking ourselves from the space of niggerization back into the journey of God. This process of breaking the grafting process of a Yaqub mind to a God mind. Now we find that the rich slave makers of the poor have found a way to make the Yaqub mind appear to be more palatable, and more beneficent and more rewarding than the God mind. It's written to say he loves the devil because the devil gives him nothing. Now we're looking at God in the same way. We love God because God gives us nothing. So as I was looking at the documentary, I was like, is this where we are in regards to this? The zealotry and the enmity that crept into the hearts of the people was unleashed on the documentarian who was presenting the information that she found that was available. So the zealotry that was aimed, that should have been righteous through example, was lost in the zealotry space of seeking to clear a name that doesn't need to be clear. To seek to justify things that don't need to be justified. And those things that need to be justified, those things that need to be vindicated are left and lost. So on this last portion, my good brother, I want you to speak to those tenets in regards to what are some of the other takeaways from this documentary space that can be useful land in regards to us in our retributionary rebuilding efforts going forward.
Again, the beautiful thing in which each respective person and organization that was identified had that should not be overlooked is the power of the program when applied. All of them, whatever portion that they excelled at, was able to excel in that particular portion in which they emphasized, whether it be Yahweh ben Yahweh and the procurement of residential and commercial buildings and building up a stronghold in the city of Miami, cleaning up places that were destitute and were considered downtrodden and poverty stricken, making it a suitable, livable community, whether it be the cultural influence of the nation of gods and earth and how they impacted and pretty much, in essence, gave birth to hip hop, the revolutionary component to it, and heavily influenced it, particularly in the 80s. When we look at, and we can go on and on and on, but one thing's for sure, that we have the ability to be a free thinking, independent people that does not have to be relegated to the subjectivity of those that in which we were under their dominion, meaning that we don't have to placate ourselves individually and collectively to European nations that present themselves to be powerful and mighty, but they are like the leech that attaches themselves and can only sustain itself off its ability to blood suck us. I say America parades itself around as the strength and the regalness of a bald eagle, but when you actually unzip the costume that that majestic bird is wearing, you see that it is a vulture hovering around, looking for scraps, looking for dead carcasses to consume so that it may have life. America and every other European nation, since their reign, if you want to call it that, has only survived off its ability to feast off of dead people, dead culturally, dead socially, dead mentally, dead physically. That in our proper orientation, it doesn't even have the courage to even attempt to meet us head to head. And even now, in our lessened state, all of their, or majority of their attacks is either indirectly or it is more sabotage or sabotorial, or they try to create a paradigm where they outnumber us. Again, we're talking about vultures. We're talking about leeches. So once we realize, and I believe, to me, based on the highlight, the positivity, even going back to what the messenger was able to do with creating a nation within a nation, a completely integrated system where it had every aspect of civilization to be self-sustainable, farmland, to the manufacturing, to the logistics, to the airplanes, to the actual storefronts, whether it be the grocery stores, whether it be the restaurants, then the school to teach you and to contextualize you, and even a place of worship. It had it all. Defense system, ministry system. Then it had an apparatus of communication, which was Muhammad Speaks. I mean, so what are we saying? No, we can be a people. We've already shown that we can be an independent people. But it's going to take that level of commitment, dedication, and selflessness to actually see it into perpetuity. And I believe that we're at that cusp. You know, the scripture says 144,000, right? Even though now that's looking like it's looking like too large of a number. The Quran has 144 surahs or chapters. You know, it's power in the 1 and the 4. But one thing's for sure, we know it's not going to be many. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. That's just the reality. But that shouldn't be a deterrent. Even Jay-Z said in his rap song he did with Jay, he said something to the effect, he said, I would say it's not many of us. He said, well, a few of us, it's enough of us. Saying that it only take but a few. Scripture says, when 2 or more come in my name, so well, and so shall I be. One can put 100 to flight, 2 to 10,000. I mean, the numbers of God is different when you got serious men. You talk about, I forget the breed of horse, but it has the uncanny ability when you pair 2 of them together, it doesn't double its horsepower. It does something like quadruple it. And then if you add 4, it doesn't quadruple it, it's 16 times it. That's the power that we have when we actually have some synchronicity and we get in line and in sync with one another. And that's what the documentary showed, that, oh no, it's not impossible. It's just impossible if we don't understand the reality of what we must do and how we must truly go about it and lean on and build upon those who are actually successful. And so I would say in closing, to us, and if I could critique any of those, I would say instead of trying to replace or put your own spin on the messenger's plan, you should have just replicated it. If you just want, just replicated it and see what the success would have been. But when you really want your people to live and thrive and be successful, you got to take ego out of it. And I'm not saying that that was the motivation of those brothers, but I know it has been our motivation. And I would say seemingly it was the motivation of those brothers, respectfully. And that can be going forward. But I do see a time, brother, where we've reached such a low state that it's only 1 or 2 options. We go up from here or we cease to exist. And we know to cease to exist is an option for us.
Proud Prince, I thank you for your candor, for your commitment, and for your communication, your fervent zeal towards the complete and total liberation of our people is unparalleled and commended in the greatest spaces of my mind, heart, and spirit space. I'm thankful for you and your sojourn and your family sojourn, that royal bloodline that you descend and ascend from. And my prayer is that whatever I could do to be of service to you and that royal family, we already know I'm here. Did you have any closing remarks and acknowledgments and words of divine wisdom before you go?
Yes. I want to say that I know we were supposed to kind of delve into the masculinity component, and I definitely want to come back because, as you know, with the health program is something that we've come to the conclusion in doing the research here in Chicago. We've been seemingly stationed with being a forerunner in the gang violence intervention and prevention. And one of the things that we were able to conclude is that one of the main contributors to our unfavorable disposition is our dietary habits, as well as the water and food that we consume on a daily basis. And just correcting that will make a significant change in our reality. So I do want to come back and speak to that as giving tangible, literal, actionable points of resolution that we all can participate to clean up our communities and make them safe and decent places. So LOJ Fit Club, definitely can check that out on Instagram as well as Facebook. But I do want to close out saying this. I'm so grateful for God, first and foremost. You know, I'm grateful for the messenger. I'm grateful for His Excellency Ben me and every man and woman who have went on a journey of exalting the righteousness of our people and doing it in a way that makes us an independent, free people. But I would be remiss and I would be irresponsible in my duties and obligation if I just don't take a moment to acknowledge and honor my personal father, Prince Asasiel, who was the very instrument of my growth and development and the one who I've been blessed to follow in this journey and to emulate to the best of my ability. Not replicating him, but being the intentional conduit of change for our people that he was in his life and will continue to be in his ascension. So I'm so grateful for Prince Asasiel. His life has been a blessing to us, and so may his life and his journeys and his toils and his sacrifice please the God of life. And I'm so grateful for his family who had to endure that. That's a hard thing, being a son or a child or a spouse to such a man. It comes with such torment and punishment. And you look at some of the benefits, but trust me, we'll give it all away just to have another moment with him. So I just want to just acknowledge him as we encroach upon his 1 year anniversary of his transition. I do, brother, want to thank you. You said what you could do for me is when you're in the presence of God and you're the presence of righteousness, I never seek to receive, I only seek to give. So I extend myself to you, brother, as I am a servant humbly in the pursuit of freedom, justice, and equality. So whatever I can do for you to continue this great mission and this great work, you already know I'm but a call away. I do ask, though, since you did offer up, that we do get back in person again and we do some things on ground and we take the time to really document and go through these things meticulously, where we create a series both of telling the story of Prince Asasiel, but also using his life as a means to teach and give applicable solutions that can be a remedy to our current circumstance and situation which we find ourselves in. So I look forward to seeing you very soon here in Chicago, and by God's grace that we can travel this country together, you know, shifting the culture and being able to display a sense of unity that is much needed in this day and time. So, brother, I thank you again. Words cannot accurately describe the blessing that I receive every time I get to mount this digital and spiritual rostrum to speak to you and those in your listening audience, but also to fellowship with you and to have a conversation that unfortunately we're not having enough. So I thank you, brother, from the depths of my heart, my soul, and my gut, from my mouth to God's ears to your heart.
Y'all see why he's so wonderful, okay? Why he's so wonderful, man. It's our brother, man. Thank you. So yeah, definitely I'm gonna double down on that. Writing 4 books you need to be a part of, and 4 documentaries you need to be a part of. So you already know. So in addition to those things, we already know we wanted to document Bible's story and the legacy rightfully and truthfully, and assist you in that. You already know I'm there. I don't think I got no pictures and videos of me on my iPad. I think it's Asasiel's pad. I think it's Asasiel's pad. The Asasiel legacy pad. You see what I'm saying? So definitely we'll be in tune, and sooner than later with everything. So we're gonna go for now, y'all. Y'all in our business, okay? Y'all was about to see. Look, they were trying to sneak in the business a little bit. So we'll be back. So hopefully, if you have another day this week or closer to the weekend, whatever works, we can go back and peel back the layers of Black masculinity as well. I want to invite you back on because I'm doing an interview marathon of sorts in these next couple of days between now and the 31st. So definitely want to invite you back. And shout out to Ishmael, our good brother Ishmael in the building over there. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them that in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the
motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.